Whole grains, number one. Whole grains, okay? Whole grains are things like wheat, rice, oats, corn, quinoa, and there's like a billion other grains, buckwheat, sorghum, barley. These are all grains. They're plants, but they're the product of the great agricultural revolution in human history that was responsible as nearly as much as anything for getting us to this point in civilization. They're good quality calories. There's good complex carbohydrates, glucose, carbohydrates in the form of glucose that you get from these grains. But I say whole grains because that's the critical difference. Here's a crash course on whole versus refined grains in case you don't already know. Nature produces these grains whole, okay? And by whole, we mean that they're comprised of three components. There's what's called the endosperm, which is the actual, carbohydrates and some protein. When you look at bread, the wheat plant, basically, it has an endosperm, which is what white or refined bread is left with. You're still getting the bread. That's the endosperm. That's what you're eating. That's where most of the calories come from. But there's something called the wheat germ, and there's something called the wheat bran. Bran is where most of the fiber and some important nutrients reside. The wheat germ is where there's some oils, fats that are important and nutritious, as well as most of the vitamins, most of the other nutrients, and the antioxidants. The problem is that the oils in the wheat germ go rancid the fastest. So some time ago, we decided as, society or whatever, to refine these flours because, somebody discovered or realized that wheat flour would keep a lot longer, and you can keep it on a shelf for longer. And if you had to transport it across the country by freaking caravan or something, the flour would keep forever and ever, or at least a lot longer when we refined the grain. So that's what we did. And we may not have realized it at the time, but by doing so, we're left with the calories, but we've stripped this food of its important vitamins, minerals, other nutrients, antioxidants, and equally importantly, of all the dietary fiber from the wheat bran, which aids in digestion and keeps our engine and motor running, cleanly. And it helps feed the good bacteria in our gut microbiome that support our immune system, help break down foods, absorb nutrients, beat back and crowd out the bad bacteria, do wonders for our health in general. So eat whole grains, but make sure that they're whole grains, not refined grains. There's nothing refined about it other than in the sense that it's kind of, processed that way and stripped of things. It's more accurate to call it stripped flours. Stay away from those. I'm hopeful that, in the future, all grains will be whole grains by default, because with, supply lines and technology being what it is, I don't see why that can't be a viable vision for the future, and I hope it is, because just simply replacing processed refined wheat flour with whole grain wheat flour, given how important wheat is to the American diet and human diets around the world, that is one of the single most important things we can do to improve everybody's health. That alone will increase Americans' fiber intake, and it will go a long way towards improving health outcomes for everybody, everything from heart disease to cancer and the rest. So eat whole grains, number one.